Welcome to Business Spotlight Series. My name is Mark McNulty. I'm the president of Action Coach Bluegrass in Southern Indiana here in Louisville. And today we're going to be talking with Shadle, co-owner of the Mayan Cafe. Going to ask some questions. We're going to talk about what she's done to grow the business and challenges and basically her life and experience as a business owner. So welcome, Ann. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah. Hi, Mark. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So if you could give us kind of a brief overview of the business, kind of how you got started, what what the ownership structure is, are you the owner? I think you've got a partner, and kind of the role you play in the business today.
Sure. So my business partner and I opened the Mayan Cafe together in January of 2007. So he is the chef and I am the general manager, business side of things. He had a restaurant previously in our same neighborhood for 10 years before I got involved and had closed that and then reopened, similar concept. So he's been around since 1997 in our neighborhood. So he's a 26-year-old brand at this point. And yeah, it's just the two of us are partners.
Okay. So obviously he's a chef, so we know what got him into the restaurant business. What got you into the restaurant business?
It found me rather than me finding it. I had moved to Louisville in 2006 to get my master's in social work, which I did for 2 days. And my sister was dating Bruce, the chef, at that point. They weren't married, they were dating. And I was like in between jobs and waiting for school to start. And so offered to kind of help him with some logistical stuff, and then was going to start school about 6 or 7 months later, start this grad program. So I started doing that, and then I was managing the restaurant. And by the time grad school came around, I was like, I can't do all of this. So I enjoyed business in a way that I never expected to, because I was going to get my master's in social work and specialize in geriatrics. So that's very different than running a restaurant. So it found me.
Yeah, they say that. Yeah, that's a big change from social work. Although, the social work education probably comes into play sometimes, I imagine, because you're in a people business.
Yes, yeah, managing a staff of 30 or so folks. Having my bachelor's degrees in psychology, so that's served me in all of the HR pieces of things that I do. So,
okay, awesome. So what makes your restaurant special? Kind of who is your target visitor, customer, and why do they come to your restaurant instead of the others, especially where you're located? There's a lot of options in that neighborhood.
There is, yes. So our brand is that it's authentic Mayan food. So my brother-in-law is a Mayan Indian from southern Mexico. He's actually down there right now, getting some chilies that we have to. It's one chili paste. We can only get it from Mexico. So the food is authentic, traditional Mayan dishes. And we also use a ton of local sourcing. So all of the meats and the bulk of the produce come from local sustainable farms. So the food is super flavorful, high quality because of because of where we get all the ingredients from. So what sets us apart is that we're Latin American, but we're essentially a regional Mexican specialty, right? Because it's all from the Yucatan Peninsula where Bruce is from. So it's all like traditional Mayan ingredients and recipes and ways of cooking things, but then mixed with his own twist, because he's an artist and a creative person by nature. So he'll take this one dish called salbutes is a really good example. So it's sort of like a Mayan version of a taco. It's a corn tortilla that we make fresh with fresh masa, and then we flash fry it so it's kind of crispy and puffs up. If you eat these in the Yucatan Peninsula, they just top them with shredded turkey and shredded chicken and some pickled onions. Well, we've made hundreds, maybe thousands of different versions of these salbutes, because you can put anything you want on top of them, right? So that's sort of the idea. Take this traditional Mayan dish, but then use local meats, local vegetables, and have some kind of twist with it. So our customers have been, they've been coming to that neighborhood way before it was a cool neighborhood, right? Because we were the first restaurant there, and we're the only restaurant that's lasted this whole time. Other folks, sort of came earlier on, but all of those businesses have gone out at this point. So we're by far the longest standing. Made it through the fourth quarter of 2008 when, the stock market crashed and every other restaurant in the neighborhood except for one and us closed. So we've definitely seen a lot, but the neighborhood has now grown up to be one of the very most popular neighborhoods in the city. So it's the hotbed of nightlife, and, late night bars and stuff are real busy all the time around us.
So what do you attribute that sticking power, that you're the only one that's made it through all that? What did the two of you do to make that happen?
I mean, restaurants are hard to make it work. They're a very low profit margin business. I don't recommend getting into the restaurant business if you're trying to actually make money. It's not a good way to do it. He and I have very opposing strengths, but between the two of us, we have all of the things that you need to make a restaurant successful. So in many cases, I think restaurants are not successful because they're missing one of those pieces. So you either have a very good product, but you don't know how to manage the money. You don't know how to keep staff around. You don't know how to handle turnover, or vice versa. You do have good management systems, but you don't have good enough food to get people to come back. You can't manage your food costs, so you lose money, every day, wasting product, et cetera. So we have, and he has a very, very good product. He's obsessed with quality, and has been, we never wanted to get so big that we lost hold of food quality, which often happens with restaurants, that they just want more and more and more. And then you lose the quality, you lose the specialness of it. So we've found a happy balance of doing things well, and also having some kind of like personal balance in our lives. He has two small kids. I started a couple other businesses this past year. I've had time to do that. So, so it's, I don't know. We also are just lucky, right? Like there are outliers, and I do feel like we are one of those. Having talked to lots and lots of restaurant owners, I do consulting work as well. So over the last few years, I've talked to hundreds of other restaurant owners, and it's hard to make it work in this business. So there is just an element of luck as well.
Well, yeah, I'm a believer that we make our own luck, though. But I think that one of the keys that you said was he owns the food side, and you as a partner have the operational and HR strength.
Yep.
Because you need a great kitchen, you need a really tight operations, and you really need to have kind of a great HR function, because you do need a big team, and that industry can have a lot of churn, which makes it hard to deliver consistently.
Right.
And as a customer, I can vouch for the fact that the food quality is consistent. The variety of options that come around are awesome. And I'm a big fan as well. It's very, very well, and the food's just great and well run. And one of the things with restaurants that, as it's consistency. It's not being great sometimes and average sometimes. It's you got to be consistently at whatever level you're at. You got to be the same every day. And I know that's been our experience, is that it's always the same good quality level of service, and then the food just can't beat the food.
Well, but it's good to hear that. That's what we work hard to do every day. So our catering department has grown a lot over the years too. So we've added that essentially second line of revenue that allows us, we do all of the catering from inside the restaurant as well. So we have one set of fixed operating costs, but two lines of revenue that are feeding into it. So it can be tight in the kitchen to have, doing as much catering as we are. But at this point, catering is like 40 to 45% of our overall sales. Okay. So that's definitely helped as well to allow us to have, food going out the front door and food going out the back door, literally.
Okay. So other than obviously, word of mouth and location, what are some marketing strategies that you use to, keep flow in for both the restaurant and then also the catering side?
So two different sort of marketing techniques with the catering versus the restaurant. Catering, we have been able to get on, there's a ton of different event venues around town. And we were able to get on a lot of these different venues' preferred caterer lists. Okay. So essentially in the funnel of a referral stream, when people are planning events, they first pick a venue, and then from there they go to the caterer most of the time. And so getting getting those relationships set up has allowed us to have a much wider funnel of inquiries coming in. So we're very good at inbound sales in the catering department. Outbound sales, that's like the hardest part, right? So, but so if you reach out to us, many other companies that do catering, it's along with a restaurant as well, and they don't necessarily have all of their systems in place. We have really good operating systems. So if you send us a message, you're getting a response back within 24 hours. And we do a lot more than a lot of other caterers do. So the food and the service is excellent, and gets people to want to recommend us at those venues. So that's been, that side of things has been very much relationship based, in connecting with those venues initially, and then doing everything we can to keep the people running the venues very happy with us. So we bring extra food to feed their whole staff, kind of thing, because we just want them to love us, so that they, when people say, okay, we have a list of 10 people here that can cater, but really who would you suggest, many of them will say, just call Mayan Cafe. Their food and their service is better than everybody else. So that's been really good for that. The restaurant, I've never had a big marketing budget by any means. We do the sort of obvious, social media stuff. I've tried to put more energy into that, doing some like behind the scenes videos and reels and stuff as of late. I've done newsletter stuff over the years. I've done like specials driven marketing things. So, rather than trying to work really hard to get people in for one day for some big wine dinner or something, I've learned that it's more worth my time to get them to come in for the whole month of January, right, which is our slowest month, like to do some kind of promotion for a whole month at a time. And I also sort of like save our marketing capital for the times when we really need it. So during the summer months when we're busier, I'm quieter from a marketing perspective, and then we'll do some of these different specials in. Like I've already got stuff planned for November, December, January, February that are different specials to be pushing out during those months. And then, really like early on, I had heard somebody speak about like buzz and just sort of like, what is buzz and how do you do word of mouth marketing, right?
Right.
And so in that conversation, the speaker was saying like, pay attention to what people are already naturally talking about in regards to your business and feed more information into those channels. And so there's like this side dish that we have, these Toxel lima beans. It's a traditional Mayan way of roasting lima beans. They're surprising. And so they've become this sort of like memorable thing for most people. So I realized that was something that people were already naturally talking about, because it was surprising to them that they liked lima beans when most people hate lima beans. So like the number of things that I've done with lima beans in the last 16 years would just bore you, right? Like, because we just do everything that we can to push those lima beans, because it makes people want to talk about it. So essentially I can go to any event in this city and walk up to 5 people. Half of them will know about Mayan Cafe, and half of those people will say, as soon as I say I'm with Mayan Cafe, the first thing they'll say is, oh my God, those lima beans. Like, I've literally tested it like time and time again over the years. So it's just something that has become a buzz thing. So I've learned to sort of like push more into those channels.
Okay. So speaking of channels, so is social media is that a big channel for you, I assume?
It's some, like it used to be that I could put stuff on Facebook and I'd get responses from that. And then that kind of has shifted a little bit. It's more like Instagram focused stuff. So there's, it's like you kind of like can't not do it, I think. But I more think like it's a platform, one of many platforms that you need to be thinking of, like what is the message that you're sending out there first needs to be the thing, right? Like, are you asking your customers to do something? Are you just trying to get general brand awareness and stay top of mind? But if there's stuff that you're asking them to do, then yes, that is obviously one channel to be communicating with them through. So yeah,
Okay.
it's the world we live in.
Yeah. So let's shift a little bit to kind of the last 4 years have been challenging in the business world, in particular the hospitality industry. So, and obviously you survived it, you came through it. So my question for you though is, so how have you adapted and changed as a leader and business owner over the last 4 years? How has that changed your approach to being an owner and also just a business leader in the community?
Um, I mean, so my particular perspective is informed by the my work at the restaurant, but then I also did during like 2020 for 2 years, starting in the middle of 2020, I worked as a business coach with the Small Business Development Center in
Right.
Louisville, as like a, side gig, but not
Mhm.
really, right? Because that was a 40-hour-a-week job, and I was running the restaurant and the catering stuff, and we had a food truck too. So my perspective was just blown out of the water, right? Because every day, I mean, I'm in 2 years' time, I met with 400 different business owners or aspiring business owners, because a lot of them were in startup phase. And so it definitely, you know, changed my perspective on how difficult it is to run a restaurant, just like seeing so many more people from that perspective. And really, like, the biggest thing that I took from the time in the world as well as that work is just the sense of gratitude for where we were as a business when COVID hit. I mean, we were, I guess, 13 years old at that point.
Mhm.
I had established financials so that I could apply for PPP stuff right away. Because if you didn't have, the history and you didn't have the records, you couldn't do those things.
Right.
Having an accountant relationship that was supremely helpful, kind of this kind of thing. So just being grateful that, you know, like that I knew everything that I knew, because I worked with so many people who were very early on, and they got early on in their own businesses, and they got left out of some of the financial programs, and just not, having so much to learn, and then also having all of that on top of you, which just, it's just a whole lot. Like, it's really hard to run your own business as it is, like when things are going well, and
Mhm.
then add all the stuff on top of it, and it's super challenging. So yeah, I mean, my biggest thing is just, having the being filled with this sense of gratitude, and then essentially wanting to take everything that I've learned and give it away. So this is like how I've started so after I was at the Small Business Development Center for a couple of years, and then I've started my own consulting stuff where I do like deep dive operational consulting with small business owners. And so my intention is to make it affordable for folks and to just share everything that I've spent the last 16 years learning, because I want to help people with it. If it can be helpful for folks, that's what I want to do with it. So that's,
Hey,
yeah, kind of
awesome.
how I've been changed in the last few years.
Well, good. Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate it. That was a tough time. So, and appreciate everything you've done then and sharing that. So are you, thinking of some of the business leadership tools you've employed? Are you a goal setter? Are you a to-do lister? Or what are some of the tools that you've used to help you keep focused and growing?
I definitely like the goal stuff. Like, every year in January, my partner and I sit down and we do sort of like a year end review of the previous year, and then look ahead at the upcoming year. And I like to do it in the different sort of categories of the business. So finances, HR, marketing, operations. Um, and so that we're making sure that and then also like time, we always are talking about like how much time off do we want, what do we want like our sort of week to week schedule to look like. So I do that on like a big scale. And then to keep my managers engaged, we do a couple times a year, we'll do goal setting meetings where they set goals for what they want to learn and how they want to grow and be challenged in their particular positions. So I definitely like the goal setting stuff. In my personal life, I've always been a goal setter, like New Year's and my birthday.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that that's a good tool just to kind of continue to look forward. And I mean, lists, like the one skill that I had when I started this work as a 22-year-old child who had no business running a restaurant. I have like no idea how I did any of it back then, because I had never even worked in a restaurant at that point. So like, why was I doing that? But I was organized. I had no other skills, but I was organized. So, I have obsessively made lists. I used to keep my list because I didn't know what I was doing. Like, I would get to the end of the day and be like, I know I worked all day long, but I don't know anything that I did. You just like move so fast that you're not aware of what you're doing. And so I
Mhm.
was like, okay, if I keep these lists, maybe then I'll figure out what I'm doing. So, yeah, so yeah, definitely all of those tools. I mean, and just like trying to find, like, the thing with business ownership is trying to find some sort of balance so that you feel like you actually own it versus it owning and then crushing you.
Right.
Right. So like time management techniques is definitely important. And things that I've like worked on over the years. And just being able to delegate stuff and like kind of step back then so that you're not, so that you actually can delegate it and then have some time off, like trusting other people, putting systems in place so that they are trained properly, etc. So
Okay.
all of those things, you got to know all of them to do it well,
Right. So excellent. So what's your top time management tip for business owners?
Start early. And I'm not a crazy early person, but like, I think do something for yourself first thing in the morning.
Okay.
And then like really kind of like honor that time and then kind of like go into the rest of your day and like using a prioritization with how you manage your time. So knowing what is the most important thing. Like I would have moments when I would have a list of all these different things and I would say, of everything on this list, what is going to bring money to the bottom line? Like what's going to increase my profit margin? And that's the thing I would do first.
Okay. That's great advice. That's always where it's always priorities, and it's always got to be what's going to move my business forward profitably the fastest. So great. So, so what are your goals for the restaurant for the next 3 to 5 years? Is that something you could share?
Yeah, we're actually on the tail end of like the biggest construction project we've done, where we've built a covered patio behind the restaurant.
Right.
And we're like adding a little bar back there, which we've never had a bar before. So I don't think we'll be able to operate it, maybe a little bit like on the weekends in October this year, because we still have a little bit more work to do. But for sure, starting early next spring, we'll kind of run with that. So that's going to increase our footprint by like 35-40%, because we'll just have a decent amount more tables back there. So that's kind of our big thing, is to increase the restaurant's footprint, so that we can be just doing more sales with the restaurant. And then if like that does what I hope it will do, maybe split the catering off into like a separate entity and like look for another building for that. But that's more just kind of like behind the scenes stuff with the catering, but potentially maybe do that if that makes sense. Some point in the next, like that would be maybe in like a year and a half or 2 years is kind of what we're thinking for that. Okay. So yeah, just the catering is the piece where we can grow the most, because right now we're limited by space, which is why we're hoping to do the expansion, or doing the expansion, so that that's a little bit less limiting, and then continue to grow the catering.
Okay, awesome. That's awesome. I knew there was some work going on there, but I wasn't sure what it was all about. So that's exciting. So congratulations.
It's gonna be really. Thank you. Yeah, we're excited about it.
Okay. All right, to wrap us up here, I've got just a couple, just real quick questions. First thought is the best. So what's the key to success for you?
The right partnership, like finding the right partnership in a business ownership setting.
Okay. So what's one piece of advice you would give that you give to other business owners?
Have a weekly meeting with your partner. Like force that every week to stay in good communication with your business partner, and have the meeting outside of the business, like at a coffee shop or somewhere else.
Okay. All right. So what's a book you're reading now or that you've recently read that you'd recommend?
I just finished it a few days ago. It's called Women Who Run with the Wolves. It's like every woman ever should read this book. It's fantastic. It was written in the 90s, late 90s, but it's amazing.
If I handed you my magic wand and you could improve one part of your business, what would it be?
Make my labor cost percentage a lower number, but not have to give anybody a demotion.
All right. So last two questions. So how can others learn more about you? How could they get in contact? Website, social media, where else can they find you?
Yeah, so our website is just themayancafe.com. So THE Mayan Cafe. And then social media, I think our Instagram is Mayan Cafe NuLu. And then we're on Facebook as well. So any of those places are good spots to look for us. We do online reservations for the restaurant. So you can get to that through the website. And then we have tons of really good catering information on the website as well. So there's a separate catering tab that has prices, menu items, a catering calculator, so you can kind of put in how many guests you have and look at sample menu like structures and see kind of what it would cost for the food. So all sorts of good information on the website about catering as well.
Okay, great. So last question. So what's most inspiring to you today?
What is most inspiring to me? I mean, I love smart business. Like I like businesses with, a larger than a 4% profit margin, which is what restaurants are. So, I mean, I could sit through any like annual board meeting of any organization and be riveted because if it's a strong organization, like if it's run well, so just having tight operating systems, having a financial model that is sustainable in the long run and allows for growth, that just gets me really jazzed.
Okay. Oh, thank you. So you mentioned lima beans. So tell our listeners how they can get a taste of some lima beans.
Yeah, so I guess if anybody has heard this interview, just come into the restaurant and say you heard me, Anne, on the Action Coach interview, and I'll give you all some free lima beans on the house. So the way they taste is their lima beans are roasted in sesame oil with pumpkin seeds, green onions, lime juice, and parsley. So the texture and flavor is much different than what you think of from boiled lima beans from your childhood. So
right, yeah, it's kind of like roasted Brussels sprouts versus boiled Brussels sprouts, right? Just
exactly.
completely different. And for anybody who hasn't tried the lima beans, they're to die for. And yes, they don't taste like lima beans. They're just really, really good, and you'll remember them. So
Yeah.
Anne, thank you so much for sharing today. And I know our listeners are going to appreciate one, learning about you and what you're doing, and also just the tips you shared as a restaurant owner who's made it through all this. You've made it through, you survived, the financial crash and COVID, and came out on the other side still growing. And so congratulations to you, and really appreciate you sharing your thoughts with our listeners and readers. So thank you so much.
Sure. Yep. Thanks.
All right. Well, this has been the Business Spotlight series with Anne Shadle of the Mayan Cafe. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you again at our next interview. Thanks, everybody. Bye.